Hi everyone, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel and welcome to a Books Beside My Bed video. This is the Kindle Clear Out Readathon wrap-up edition of my Books Beside My Bed video, which for anyone who's new here, I film one of these every week where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading. If you're really familiar with the series, welcome back. So this week we're going to be talking about the 9 books that I read as part of this readathon. I completed the readathon from the 26th of September until the 3rd of October. I started one day earlier and finished one day earlier than everyone else for lots of reasons, but mostly because it fit into this filming schedule a little bit better, but also because I go back to work on Monday. So the Sunday when I'm filming this is quite busy with work stuff. So there wasn't never going to be much reading happening on this day anyway. As I said, I read 9 books, a total of 2,213 pages, and my yearly reading total is up to 321 books. We're going to jump straight into the books. The first book that I read was When the Earl Met His Match by Stacey Reid. This is a 2020 release that I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. I read it for the Kindle Clear Out Challenge to read a book by a BIPOC author. And this story is about Hugh Winthrop, the Earl of Albury, who advertises for a wife in a London newspaper. This advert is seen by Lady Phoebe Maitland, who is very taken aback by a gentleman who would seek to find a wife by advertising for her in the newspaper, and she writes him a letter telling him so, and the two begin to converse because she's able to match this mysterious author wit for wit, because at this point no one knows who the author of this advert is. Meanwhile, Phoebe is desperate to marry the love of her life. She is the daughter of, I think she's the daughter of a duke. She has fallen in love with her music tutor, which is, you know, well below her station. And she thinks that their love is unbreakable until her father offers her music tutor a very large sum of money to leave her alone and never speak to her ever again. And she is heartbroken, and eventually she runs away to the home of this mysterious author of the advert in the newspaper. At this point, she doesn't know that he is an earl and just thinks that he might be a wealthy gentleman rather than a titled one, and that he might offer her some protection if she offers a marriage of convenience. And the story goes from there. I am going to give one spoiler for the story because I think this should have been mentioned, because I think it is good to know about these things going into the book. The main character doesn't speak and communicates through sign language, and a big part of this story is the way that Phoebe and Hugh are able to communicate with one another. And it's also about how Hugh's family and the people around him communicate with him, because some of them have taken the time to learn how to communicate effectively and others have sort of put that to one side and not tried at all, and that deeply affects his character. Overall, it was a fun read. I was excited to read another Stacey Reid book, so yes, I enjoyed it. Then I read Guarding Temptation by Talia Hibbert. This was a 2020 release that I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. I read it for the Kindle Clear Out Readathon Challenge to read the shortest ebook on my Kindle. So this is a novella, and this is a novella that has the best friend's sibling trope in it. So you have Jamie, who is a few years older than Nina, the main female character, and Jamie has been best friends with Nina's brother for pretty much their whole life. So he's known Nina for a very, very long time, and he's been in love with her for the last few years. At the beginning of the book, they have a moment, and then Jamie freaks out because he's about to sleep with his best friend's sister, and this causes a massive rift between Jamie and Nina, and they don't speak to each other for quite a while, until Nina, who runs a political website / blog, releases an article that causes quite a bit of controversy, and she ends up with death threats, and so she goes to Jamie for help. Along with the best friend's sibling trope, you also have the one bed trope, and honestly, this was just fun. It's a very Talia Hibbert kind of book. I also read Sex Not Love by Vi Keelan. This is a 2018 release that I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. I read this for the Clear Out prompt to read the book that's been on your Kindle the longest. I originally had Revelation on this TBR, but I started it, got 50% of the way in, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. It felt very YA, paranormal, tropey. I just couldn't handle it, so that one went. And I replaced it with Sex Not Love. It is the story of Hunter and Natalia, who meet at the wedding of their best friends. So Hunter is best friends with the groom and Natalia is best friends with the bride. And they're both in the bridal party, but they're not partners with each other. At the wedding, Hunter hits on Natalia notoriously. He does it the whole way through. And while Natalia does find Hunter attractive, she is also at a different point in her life. Her marriage has ended in divorce, and her husband has ended up in prison for embezzlement, and she is currently the sole guardian of her stepdaughter, who doesn't particularly like her. They don't have a really strong relationship. So she's in a very weird place, and Hugh is just very flighty and flirty, and she knows it's not serious, so it's not something that she wants to pursue. She dodges him for a year, and when their paths cross again, they do have a moment together, and then when he asks for her phone number, rather than give him her phone number, she does what she usually does, which she gives him a different number. Sometimes she gives out the wrong number, but this time she decided to scare him off by giving him her mother's phone number, which backfires on Natalia when she turns up to the next family dinner and Hunter has been invited. It's not an overly complicated story. It was just an entertaining afternoon read. I just sort of keep working my way through Vi Keelan's back catalogue at the moment. Then I read Can't Escape Love by Alyssa Cole. This was a 2019 release. It is a novella in the Reluctant Royal series. I think it's technically numbered 2.6 and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I read this for the prompt to read a character with a disability. The main character, Reggie, is in a wheelchair. Reggie runs a very popular pop culture website and she's in the process of trying to expand this even further. As a result, she has found herself dealing with insomnia. And years earlier, she listened to the live streams of some guy online that talked about puzzles and she found his voice really soothing. But all of those recordings have been taken down. And so after a little bit of sleuthing, she ends up finding this guy and sending him a random email asking him whether he would be prepared to record a few hours of his voice. We discover that Gustav Nguyen, who is the man behind the voice, is a puzzle aficionado and he has recently moved into designing escape rooms and he has been tasked with creating an escape room based on a very famous romance anime for a convention. The only problem is he knows absolutely nothing about this anime series, and when he does get in contact with Reggie, the two strike up a deal that he will record his voice for her if she will help him design the best possible escape room that will be true to the fans of the series. This was adorable, it was geeky, and it was so much fun. And also, being a novella, it's very quick and easy to read. Then I read Trouble Next Door by Stephanie London. This is a 2017 release that I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. I read it for the prompt to read the newest book on your Kindle, which it was at the time of filming my TBR. It is the story of McKenna Prescott, who is a woman living in Melbourne. She works at a makeup counter at one of the local department stores in the city, and she has just broken up with her boyfriend. And instead of trying to go out and find a new boyfriend, she's embarking on a journey of self-love. And one night, after a few wines, she orders herself a box of sex toys, which accidentally get delivered to the wrong apartment in her building. And so she has to go and find her parcel. And she ends up talking to Beckett Walsh, who is a very attractive guy that lives on her floor, who has just broken up with his fiancée, and he's very broken up about it. He wants to get back with his fiancée because he loves her, or so he thinks. After a bit of back and forth, McKenna proposes something to Beckett that would be mutually beneficial. She's trying to get a break as a professional makeup artist, and she has found out that Beckett's sister is getting married and it's going to be quite a high society event. So she proposes that she will help Beckett figure out a way to win back his fiancée if he would be willing to pass her name on to his sister as the makeup artist for her wedding. And the story goes from there as the two begin to try and figure out a way to win back Beckett's fiancée. I suppose the trope in this romance book is the grumpy character and sunshine character, because Beckett is quite grumpy and McKenna is absolutely delightfully sunshiny. She just wears bright makeup, bright clothes, and she doesn't really care what anyone else thinks of her. Then I read The Duke's Princess Bride by Emily Howard. This is actually a 2020 release. It comes out in January and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I read this for the Readathon challenge to read an arc. I did get it from NetGalley. We follow Princess Sarani Rao, who is the daughter of a Maharaja who's just been murdered. And so at the very beginning of the book, she is trying to escape India for London because her mother was English. So she does have distant relatives still in England, and she's hoping they might be able to help her. She stows away aboard a ship bound for London, and it is captained by Readathon Huntley, who is actually a man that she was in love with years ago, but she broke his heart when her father ordered her to break it off and to get married to a man of his choosing. Huntley himself is a reluctant duke because he was the 3rd son of his father, and both his older brothers and his father were killed, and so he's had to assume the mantle of Duke, something that no one ever thought that he would have to do. He would much rather be sailing. This is his last voyage before he takes up his duties, and on the way to England, Sarani and Huntley strike up a deal for a marriage of convenience, or an engagement of convenience as it were, because his mother is desperately trying to marry him off and Sarani needs protection, and so they see a way to help each other out, but only after Sarani plays a huge number of pranks on him on the boat, which was delightful. I also read The Midnight Bargain by C.L. Polk. This is a 2020 release and I gave it 3 stars. I did read this for the challenge to read a book for review. Again, this was a NetGalley arc. It is a fantasy romance story, but it felt very YA, so it's potentially a YA fantasy story. We follow Beatrice, who is a sorceress in a world that really doesn't recognize women who have magic. If they do have strong magic, they're pretty much subjugated as soon as possible. She really wants to pursue magic, but her family is determined to marry her off to a well-off husband because they have some financial issues. If this happens, her magic would be shackled, because in this world, everyone has access to magic. Women, men, children, everyone can access these small magics. For women to get married and have children, while they have access to that magic, apparently something happens to the kids that are born. And so essentially they're cut off from their magic with a collar once they get married. And she desperately doesn't want this because she sees what it does to her mother. Her path crosses with Isbeta and Ianthe. Isbeta is another woman who does not want to get married and wants to pursue magic. And so Beatrice and Isbeta start to work together to try and find a way to claim this higher magic that previously only men had really achieved in order to escape their prospective marriages. And then you have a love story between Beatrice and Ianthe, who is Isbeta's brother. It is a book that really focuses heavily on women's rights, and that part of the story I really liked, but I just found the pacing really inconsistent. I found the characters to be pretty flat characters overall. I wish I had enjoyed it more, but parts of it I did, parts of it I didn't. I do have a review on my blog for this one, so you can check out my in-depth thoughts over there if you would like to. Then I read Theirs to Keep by Krista Wolfe. This is the 2020 release that I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I technically completed all of the clear out prompts, so I was just reading extra books. This is a reverse harem story that features a former cop who has taken on the job of working as a site foreman for a mansion reconstruction project where she has been hired by these 3 guys, 3 builders. All 4 of them have their own secrets, and despite an attraction to one another, they're trying to work out whether they could make this polyamorous relationship actually work. This book was short, steamy, and a little bit cheesy, but it was fun. I don't know, I kind of like books where people are working on building projects. I mean, I can't stand that in real life, but apparently I like it in books. And the last book that I read this week was Mating the Huntress by Talia Hibbert. This is another novella. It is the first book in the Monsters and Mates series and was published in 2018. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's a paranormal romance book with a werewolf shifter, so if you're looking for one of those this month, it was delightfully fun. The main character, Chastity, comes from a family who are werewolf hunters. She's been trained as one, but she's not allowed to go out and hunt because of a prediction that was made at her birth that her first kill would tear out her heart or break her heart or something like that. And so instead of going out and hunting werewolves with her mother and her sisters, instead she works at a local bakery. Then she meets Luke, who is a werewolf who comes into her bakery and flirts with her outrageously, and she decides to prove to her family that she is capable of being a huntress, and so she flirts back with Luke in order to get an invite to his house so that she can kill him. And that's where their relationship starts. Well, we quickly find out that Luke believes that Chastity is his mate. Their relationship starts with her trying to kill him. And if that's not a paranormal romance, I don't know what is. So those are all the books that I have read over the last 7 days. It was an entertaining week. I always enjoy reading things on my Kindle. For those who are interested, I do have an October ReadDigital bingo board up on my blog, and I'll pop it up on the screen here and a link down in the comments below. I will be doing that in the last week of October if you are interested. I think it's time to get back into spending a week on reading my Kindle because it's a good way to get through those books. So thank you very much to Brie and all the other co-hosts for this readathon. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. In the comments below, let me know if you have read any of these books or if you're planning on reading them in the future. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you are staying safe and healthy, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.